Breaking news. They're coming for the kids. We're coming for them! Sisters broken badges flashing in the night. Knock down doors, no warrant, no right. Take the children, tear the families apart. Hide behind protection while you rip out the heart. Files fabricated, lies on the stand. Judges in their pocket, money changing hands. Parents screaming, cameras never show. The real abuse happens when the CPS shows. Scott ever standing fighting Tennessee DCS. For separation, they tore the family from his chest. Placed on a registry, no charges, no crime. Blount County DCS crossing every line. Evers versus the state, lawsuit in federal court. Exposing the corruption, tearing that system apart. Years of battle, justice delayed, but not denied. A father's resolve with truth's on his side. No mercy, no justice, just power unchecked. We expose the corruption, put them under the rack. Gunning for CPS. We won't stop, we won't rest. Breaking news every day. Truth cuts like a blade. Gunning for CPS. Your empire's gonna fail. We fight for the families. We fight for the free. CPS. Your time is over. You'll see. Another case buried, another life destroyed. Numbers manipulated, stories over deployed. They call it protection, we call it abduction. State-sponsored kidnapping, legal corruption. Parents labeled unfit for daring to speak. Question the system and they label you weak. We document every raid, every lie, every theft. The resistance is growing, no more silent regret. No mercy, no justice, just power unchecked. We expose the corruption, put them under the rack. Gunning for CPS. We won't stop, we won't rest. Breaking news every day. Truth cuts like a blade. Gunning for CPS. Your empire's gonna fade. We fight for the families. We fight for the free. CPS. Your time is over. You'll see. You took the innocent. You destroyed the home. Oh, now the people are waking. And we're coming for your throne. No more silence. No more fear. The revolution starts right here. Gunning for CPS. We won't stop, we won't rest. Breaking news every single day. Gunning for CPS. Your kingdom's gonna break for every parent, for every child set free. CPS. We're gunning for thee. This is the podcast, Gunning for CPS, hosted by Scott Evers. Relentless in his fight, Evers versus Tennessee DCS. A father who refuses to yield, exposing every injustice, demanding accountability, reclaiming what was taken. The battle continues. Stay vigilant. The truth is our weapon. This is the reckoning. Blount County CPS. Your time has come! Gunner Evers rising, shadow in the fight. Blount County CPS stealing children in the night. No warrant, no warning, they crossed every line. Took his child away, tried to bury the crime. Fabricated files, twisted every truth. Placed him on a registry with no proof. court now, watching every move they make. The system is shaking, the foundation starts to break. No more hiding, no more lies. The truth is coming, hear the battle cry. This is the reckoning. Gunner Evers bringing the pain. Blount County CPS, your empire's in flames. The reckoning. Justice finally calls your name. For every family broken, for every child torn away. The reckoning is here. There's hell to pay. There's hell to pay. Evers versus Blount lawsuit cutting deep, exposing corruption, secrets they can't keep. Years of separation, heart ripped from his chest. Yet he stands unbreakable, refusing to rest. No charges filed, but they branded him a threat. Now the court is watching, collecting their debt. Blount County, DC, yes, your days are numbered fast. The father's fight is real, this reckoning will last. No more hiding, no more lies. The truth is coming, hear the battle cry. This is the reckoning. Gunner Evers bringing the pain. Blount County CPS, your empire's in flames. The reckoning. Justice finally calls your name. For every family broken, for every child torn away. The reckoning is here. There's hell to pay. There's hell to pay. You came for the innocent. You destroyed the home. Now the reckoning rises, and you stand alone. Alone, 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 alone. No mercy, no escape. The people are awake. This is the reckoning. Gunner Evers leads the fight. Blount County CPS, vanishing from sight. The reckoning. Walls are crashing down tonight. For every parent watching, for every stolen child. The reckoning is here, and we're running wild. Gunner Evers, still standing strong. Blount County CPS. The reckoning has only just begun. Truth is the weapon. Justice will be gone.
Good evening, and who are we going to piss off today with our knowledge and education? You'll have to forgive me. We've just got the new room. My kids and a few others came by, and they got the room kind of cleaned up. So we're going to start doing this, but we're officially moved into our own little studio room now. So if you'll see, the background is completely changed, but we're going to get a few other things up, so on and so forth as we go forward. But this gives me more of a quiet place than, once again, out in the living room that I was there before. Guys, welcome once again. We've got a lot to cover for some of you. Happy Mother's Day to those of you that are out there that, we kind of broke a story earlier this week, or we followed up, piggybacked on the story that was released that they were trying to cover up and bury. Couple of them this week. If you've been following me on Facebook, we are not able to go live on TikTok yet. We're less than 30 days with our account, so we have to get those numbers up. So if you guys are on TikTok, go look for the show on TikTok, Gunning for the number 4 CPS, and go out there and share the hell out of it. And let's get those numbers up so we can go live on TikTok and expand the amount of knowledge that we can take and share with others, especially on that platform. We've made it very apparent now. We are, once again, I am a member of the IFPO, I am International Press. I am registered with the IFPO. So the First Amendment does apply. So any attempt by TikTok to, we'll say, take down or discourage or anything like that, or start with the misinformation stuff, they're going to be hit with the legal, with a federal lawsuit, with that, because we've made it well known. It's very well documented on that particular page. But enough about me. How have you guys been doing this week? I know it's been real crazy with everything going on. We've had, I think, a lot of early elections and stuff going on, a lot of results here locally in our county that everybody's been kind of upset with. But I know that the corruption continues. That's been a huge thing. We've had a lot of turnover of a few, but a lot of the major players ended up staying. And I know there's a lot of people out there that maybe don't follow politics, or it's not your thing. And the biggest thing you're worried about is getting your kids back home. But like I said, a lot of times these states are just not going to do it. We've got more evidence that's come in. As far as the personal case, it's just going to add up, makes them look even worse. I now have four federal cases filed. You guys are free to look those up. The other one was just listed today. A couple of them in the Eastern Tennessee district. Those are people that, once again, I'm dealing with forgery and fraud and all sorts of other things. And it seems to be a pattern, not just with state officials, but with private companies. So yeah, that seems to be pretty crazy. And when you hold their feet to the fire to do the right thing, they just can't produce what's needed. I mean, and people got to understand, you have got to do the right thing. You have got to play by the rules. But let's get into something here. Wondering about this story. Now, guys, this kind of broke my heart but at the same time, it finally hit major media. And if you don't know what I'm talking about the story that broke down in Miami, Florida. Now, the FBI got involved. They were watching this, and we were remember, we broke the story first here nationwide, right here on Gunning for CPS, about the nurses picking out or, getting favors or other things to kidnap people's children. Well, even now we're finding out that story has evolved. And now they're just plain out kidnapping babies and telling people they were stillborn and they never seen them or anything else. But let's get to the story. I mean, it's going to explain a lot. And guys, it's going to blow your minds. And once again, I'm learning a few new things here now. Now I'm back to a 2-screen process. You'll have to forgive me. I've been real tired this week. Yeah, this is this is on YouTube. And like I said, this is originally from Fox News. This was reported down towards Miami. They caught him. If you're telling me that CPS doesn't traffic babies and children, watch this story.
In that 2-week operation, the task force recovered 122 missing kids in the Justice Department's Middle District of Florida.
More than 100 personnel from 20 agencies joined forces in what's being called the most successful child recovery effort in U.S. history.
These kids have been through painful, disastrous situations.
What if the agency designed to protect children was the very thing destroying them? Not a conspiracy theory, not a movie plot. This is what federal investigators uncovered at 5:17 in the morning inside a government building that had been hiding the unthinkable in plain sight. Miami, Florida. Early 2026. The city still dark. Inside a federal audit office, 3 computer screens glowed against silence. An analyst was reviewing routine data infant records submitted across 5 states over a single 72-hour window. 312 entries. That alone was unusual, but one detail stopped her cold. More than 68% of those records had no verifiable hospital of origin. Every trail led back to the same source, a long-trusted Child Protective Services office. And at the top of that office was one name, Victor Langley. Decorated, respected, untouchable until now. Within hours, the evidence was confirmed. A joint task force was assembled from the FBI and the DEA. No sirens, no press releases, just 12 unmarked vehicles moving into position before sunrise at 5:23 a.m. The order was given. A steel bar hit the front door once, twice. The lock gave way. More than 130 federal agents flooded the building in under 90 seconds, sealing hallways, isolating staff, cutting every server connection simultaneously. No one was permitted to leave. What they found inside a restricted administrative zone changed the direction of the entire investigation. Rows of encrypted terminals, secured filing cabinets, and a digital database containing records of over 3,200 infants processed in just 18 months. A number that had no explanation within normal regional birth and child care statistics. Preliminary checks revealed something worse. Nearly 800 of those children could not be physically verified. No addresses, no medical histories, no trace. One investigator said it plainly. We're not looking for missing paperwork. We're looking for something that should never have been allowed to exist. A rapid review of 200 neonatal records uncovered the true scope of the fraud. More than 60% contained serious irregularities. Identification codes were duplicated across multiple files. Addresses led to empty lots, abandoned buildings, and locations that simply did not exist. In several cases, the same infant appeared under different names, each receiving independent government funding through separate approval channels. This was not a system error. This was a machine, and it had been running for years. Field teams were dispatched to 27 facilities listed in the files registered as licensed shelters, intake centers, and child care locations. Of those 27, 19 were either closed, inactive, or entirely non-existent. 6 were operational but showed no record of the children supposedly assigned to them. Some facilities listed in active case files had been permanently shut down for over 3 years. At the same time, financial analysts began following the money. Federal support funds allocated for newborn nutrition, housing, and medical care had been automatically released every time a case was approved. Over 6 months, more than $480 million had flowed through these channels. And none of it stayed where it was supposed to go. Transaction logs revealed a precise, repeating pattern. Funds were broken into transfers of $8,500, $9,200, or $9,800 deliberately kept just below the federal reporting threshold. Within 48 hours, analysts traced more than 1,700 individual transactions through fewer than 40 shell accounts. This was not coincidence. This was calculation. Then came the breakthrough. One partially loaded file contained no medical records, only routing codes. Short sequences of letters and numbers, repeated across dozens of cases, each one paired with a timestamp. Every timestamp matched the same overnight transfer window identified during the original audit. The children weren't being lost. They were being moved along a controlled route with documentation designed to eliminate the need for outside verification. For the first time, the question was spoken out loud in that room. If those records were fake, where were the children? Federal Command authorized simultaneous raids on 6 locations in a single operational window. More than 900 agents, tactical units, forensic teams. One target was the Central Administrative Headquarters. 3 were affiliated medical facilities. 2 were off-site storage locations connected to a private transportation network. The central building fell under full security control within minutes. Every workstation was locked and mirrored in real time. No files could be deleted. No remote access was possible. Inside, investigators located an independent server system running on a separate power supply, completely isolated from the agency's main network. It held 7.2 terabytes of encrypted data, partitioned and concealed. ATA refrigerated warehouse just outside the city. Tactical units forced entry into a temperature-controlled storage facility. Behind industrial refrigeration units, hidden inside insulated compartments, were 27 newborn infants. Some were severely dehydrated. Some were unconscious. None had valid identification. Medical teams were called in immediately. By 4:18 that afternoon, after the first layer of encryption was broken, analysts began to understand the full architecture of what they were looking at. It was not a list. It was a registry. More than 800 infant records, each assigned a unique identifier, each connected to a sequence of transfers, medical procedures, and coded final outcomes. The documentation was meticulous. The system had recorded everything, and every authorization, every reassignment, every transfer order traced back to a single approval chain. Victor Langley's chain. At 5:06 p.m., he was arrested. He did not resist. He did not speak. 9 senior subordinates were taken into custody alongside him. Each had maintained the system in his absence, generating schedules, transport routes, and approval sequences. But every final signature had always belonged to him. Within 36 hours of the raids, federal analysts identified at least 31 additional individuals with security clearance levels high enough to authorize or conceal infant transfers. Senior administrators, licensed medical professionals, and compliance officers. The very people whose job was to protect the system had been corrupting it from the inside. By the end of the second week, 43 individuals had been formally charged or placed under active federal investigation. The financial picture was staggering. Offshore channels through Belize, Panama, and Cyprus were connected to a web of shell entities billing for advanced neonatal services and specialized biological transport services that could not be verified. Over 5 years, more than $520 million had moved through the network. And then came the detail that haunted investigators most. Out of the original 800 manipulated records, more than 190 cases ended the same way: no discharge records, no adoption outcomes, no death reports. Just a single coded entry. Before the raids had even begun, nearly 1.4 terabytes of encrypted data were remotely wiped by an unknown user. Those files containing identities, transfer routes, and additional connections may never be recovered. The U.S. Marshal Service has described operations like this as mission-critical, recently recovering 122 missing and endangered children, most in Florida, during a single 2-week operation. Many were victims of abuse. Others were being trafficked. Some were being exploited on the streets. What investigators dismantled was not just a network. It was a model, a structure that embedded itself inside trusted institutions, operated invisibly within legitimate systems, and was protected by the very authority that was supposed to prevent it. One question still drives this investigation forward. If a system this large, this organized, and this hidden could exist inside a government agency for years without detection, how many more are still out there?
Wow. There it is, guys. I see the Punisher in the back room. If he wants to join here, let's chew on that video, man. I'm a little blown away. I mean, what do you think about that, Punisher? I mean, Florida just blew the lid off of it with all those kids. And,
how many did they say there was? 800?
Like 800 kids, man. And they say it's not just this system, that now they're looking into every state. But if you'll notice now, the FBI is looking. They are watching CPS. That is a good thing. But what they uncovered, holy shit.
Yeah, the amount of lack of oversight. You know, there was a great thing today. Hold on a second. Let me get rid of this fan. Sorry. I watched today Fostering Reality's show, The Autopsy. It's Black Mirror Project, I think it's called. And it's called The Autopsy. And man, that tells you everything. It tells you the breakdown. It tells you why they don't know where our kids are. I mean, there's no need for this. This thing started with the babies being in the hospital, right? They were supposed to be stillborn. Isn't that what they were telling the parents?
Well, that's what they did. They would deliver the baby, C-section, whatever it is, knock the mom out. Hey, the baby was stillborn, and then they're just gone. They won't show them the baby. They don't show them the body, anything else. They're shuffling paperwork. There's talks of this going on several hospitals. They're saying that the paperwork originated out of Miami, but it dealt with a lot of Central Florida too. I mean, so that's multiple counties, multiple stuff. I mean, this is not a one-time thing, and now they know what they're looking for. And did you notice the part where they said they kept it under the threshold in those deposit amounts to keep it under the radar?
Right. So no one knew that they were even making those big payments. No payments to the IRS. No tax payments needed to be made. No, nothing. You have a bunch of stillborn babies that don't exist any longer, supposedly. I mean,
give them all their social security numbers, everything else. I mean, a whole new, where did they come from? And now that you have this new thing that's going on, where these drop off boxes, you know what I'm saying, of the babies, like they, hey, drop off your baby, no questions asked. Let's just put them in a box. Now
Well, they
all of a
have those.
sudden,
The fire
it's going to make
department,
that program look good.
right?
I
Well,
mean,
the fire department, you're supposed to be able to do that. The fire department, the hospital,
yeah,
they all have those drop the baby zones off. So who knows what
least,
goes on beyond that?
yeah. I mean, and there's like, oh, well, you won't be that. Isn't that child abandonment? Isn't that a crime in some states? How can it be both? I mean, let alone now there's no thing. Well, they, these must have been babies dropped off at the boxes or whatever excuse they're going to come up with. But at the same time, it's like this was a mass influx, like a thing in behind the scenes coding. Like this is somebody that knows and has passwords and access to these systems. That this was not a joke. And it's like, where do these kids even are? And did you notice the question? Like, where are these kids physically? Where are they? Are they ghost kids? They like to talk about ghost guns all the time. Well, what about the ghost kids? I mean,
They're ghost drugs. They ghost everything else but the kids. Honestly, they got ghost weight and drugs. They got all that stuff. But where are these kids? What about it? Where do they? But here's the thing. How do you stop that? When you have corruption that says, all right, this baby was stillborn, and that's not just a nurse in on it. No. That means that there's doctors. That means that there's a hospital. That means that there's all kinds of people that are behind all this stuff. And that's what Derek's video shows. Is this thing is way bigger than what we even can imagine.
Well, even breaking the story about the nurses that we did on our show here, that, hey, we select certain babies for adoption and this and that. Well, I didn't know it was going that far in the hospitals. Right. I mean,
but apparently it's further, because you can't just have a fake stillborn baby. You know what I mean? This means that baby's alive. Yeah. They take it, they move it to another location. Then there's someone that comes and does these procedures.
Yeah.
That harvest them or they do whatever. You know what I mean? Like there's more people involved in this. So you have a line of what we call oversight and looking at this stuff. This is beyond that. This is way beyond what because they're looking at, oh, what about when the kids are this is way beyond what we're even fathomably thinking about. This is, and they're probably doing the same thing to our own kids. All it takes is a foster family. Yeah. Think about it, man. All they have to do is go to a foster family and say, hey, this isn't working. This is such and such caseworker. Mm-hmm. We're going to take this kid out of your home. And that kid is gone, vanished.
I mean, and that's what it comes down to. And you ask, what do we do about this? Well, the Declaration of Independence is very clear. Abolish. Right. Remove the government and all these things that are happening and everything, even if it comes down to the hospitals that, well, we won't get messed, we won't get this. I'm sure it will adapt. Right. I'm sure it will adapt. If we took out all their system and cut all their government funding and all their others, we're the most over-medicated country in the world.
Right.
I mean, you get 20 different pills. I was just watching a video the other day. This one, I'm like, hey, I have this and this is me sick, and I have this and I have this. I have lupus. I've got this. Okay, and all these things. And she was on like 21 medications.
Yeah.
Pulled off of them, went with natural remedies. And once again, this isn't working because I'm not getting a diagnosis. Instead, it's an imbalance to our actual bodies. And that is coming out even under JFK Jr., or I'm sorry, RFK with DHHS of, hey, the poison's in our food and this and that. You're cleaning these things up. Listen, I'm going to tell you because I had to do it myself. I went and bought or had somebody pick up a bag of those Doritos, the white bag, the ones.
I just saw those the other day. I just saw those.
And Cool Ranch. Now, I grew up when Cool Ranch came out. The original Doritos was taco flavor, taco season flavor.
Yes, sir.
That's all you got. So when Cool Ranch came out, it had a different flavor. Then when I started getting it, I'm like, why is the powder so thick and it like burns your tongue? And it's not a flavor, it's like an acid. And I just couldn't stand the flavor of it. And it's like, this is not what I had. So I tried one the other day. I'm like, that's about what I remember the Doritos tasting like back in the day. Hey, this is semi, this is pretty clean food. They remove all the dyes and all the crap in here. And then finding out, I was talking to a friend now I've got people in all walks of life and religions, so on and so forth. We can have that open discussion. So I was talking to a friend of mine that was from a predominantly Jewish community. And they've got a very large Jewish community where he's from. And they have two different types of food. And now a lot of people are familiar with the Muslims of what is halal or appropriate. The Jewish people of the Jewish sect of faith actually have things that are kosher. So they have kosher food. Then they have goyim food. Goyim food is all the stuff with the junk and the shit in it. So the fact these companies, we got to do this big switch over, they're already been doing it for the Jewish fucking community. They sell specific. Why? They got to have something that is clean. The same way with the other. You got to have halal, or you've got to have, like I said, of the Jewish community, they have to have things that are kosher. Everything's kosher. You got to have it done a certain way. You can't have impurities. You can't have this. You can't have that. And they're literally right there. You can go into the store. He goes, here, dude, here's a picture. And he sent me a picture of like even Coca-Cola. Two different caps. He goes, this stuff's for the goyams. This stuff's for the Jewish people. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? He goes, no, man, they've been doing it for the longest time. He says, we don't have that food. It's against our religion. And we force these major food people like Frito-Lay and some of the others to have clean food that we want to eat. I said, you're giving us the rest of the bullshit. He said, not us. He says, and he goes, we don't have that stuff. It's against our religion. He says, do you realize just producing a food like that and this and that, and you could go into a federal court because you're producing food and you're not equal to all, or you're serving they would have a discrimination suit against them, that they would have a freedom of religion. In other words, saying you're discriminating against the Jewish people by not giving what they want. He goes, it's an open and shut case. He says, it's not even considered. Do you take and offer stuff that is clean for them and according to their religion? No, that's discrimination. What the hell?
Right.
And I'm like, but we're getting all the garbage. He goes, hey, it's about the money. He says, a lot of people don't realize that. And like I said, I grew up in a neighborhood. We had every race, every religion, everything. So talk about your melting pot and this, that. And I'm one of the
somethings. Where are you, Gunner? You were one of the. Gunner was one of the.
Sorry. I was one of those that grew up in the neighborhood that I got along pretty much with everybody. You didn't mess with anybody. I mean, we busted each other's balls all the time. Well, it didn't matter who you are. I come from predominantly Irish background. So, there was the jokes, there was the fun. At the same time, nobody got their butt hurt. Nobody was out there like, I'm going to shoot you. I'm going to do a gun. But it was just who we are. So long as everybody did your job, you didn't, you know what I'm saying? You didn't cause somebody else pain. You did what you were supposed to do. It wasn't a problem. Everybody talked smack. It was just the way it was. But we weren't so.
They were doing something. Why'd you keep falling out?
I don't know. It's one of those nights. You know how that works. We start talking about certain things, and all of a sudden, hey, you can't talk about that. Here, let's just. But as you'll notice, Darren, we're in our new room. I'm in out of the living room now, and I'm in my own little studio now.
I see that. It's your own little spot, huh?
Yeah, it's nice. I have two monitors back now. Understand what you guys don't understand, and I know Darren will appreciate this, and some of you may. But back when I had my office and my business, I had 4, 5, 6 screens in front of me at all times because I was working with multiple things. There was security cameras working. There was, the watching the guys in real time because we were using something called Service Titan, which, dealt with all of our business stuff. I could look at, if we were using QuickBooks or anything, I could have multiple screens to do multiple things. Yeah, the amazing disappearing Gunner. I'm glad you're on here, Jennifer and Michael Branson. I know you said something before. Quit saying that they quit teaching cursive. Let me correct that. Is they quit teaching cursive in certain schools and especially in low-income areas. Not all schools did withhold or quit teaching cursive. That's like not, all schools went to Common Core or what I used to call Commie Core, because my kids went through it. And yes, it was one of the original designers was a big supporter of the Clinton Foundation. It's very well documented. But also it was made, he even said in there that the white kids were getting too smart. And instead of bringing up the other ethnic groups, I'm going to say multiple because it wasn't just one, so people don't get their panties in a bunch. It was multiple, that we have to dumb down the white kids.
Mm-hmm.
That is a proven, documented fact. Go look at it. That one of the creators specifically said that was what Common Core was done. That's that whole thing in that roundup and all that other bullshit. It was meant to confuse you. Why? Math is the universal language no matter where you go. 1 + 1 = 2. No matter where you go in this world, that's never going to change. And it was a universal language. Matter of fact, even within several other things, that mathematics is a universal language. Whether it comes to science or anything else, it's something everybody can have that conversation on with the mathematics. It was meant to confuse us and control us. People don't realize that we're actually having a very evil entity in this country that we know now for sure has killed not just one, but assassinated two presidents for what? Going to the greenback and moving away from the Federal Reserve. The first one was Abraham Lincoln. The second one was JFK. And we know for sure that he was assassinated. Martin Luther King was assassinated. You want to know why Detroit is, and Memphis is what it is? Because go look at the history of those two places, just those alone. When when Martin Luther King and a lot of those others that came through during the Great Civil Rights Movement, because once again, there was this argument, and if you got to look at history, it says all men are created equal. And there was that whole argument. Well, slaves didn't count. And yes, even during that time of the early history of this country, that included Irish. If you don't believe me, go look at the history of New York to where they were discriminated against it. Irish weren't allowed in there. It wasn't just the people of color because they were looked down on severely. So there's a lot of history, but understand this is the other thing that I think people don't understand, Darren, is do you know why they're stealing your kids and disrupting your family and everything else?
What you got?
Destroy your family's history, word of mouth history, and your heritage. Because you're not going to hear stories. If you guys follow me on TikTok, once again, Gunning for CPS is our show there. We're trying to get live there. I did a video of a recollection. And Darren, you'll appreciate this. I used to mow an old man's yard back when I was real young. Okay. And the man was like 98, 99 years old. A huge backyard. I mean, he had like his house sat on probably 3 acres. And so I cut his grass, and I had this old, it was the old fashioned one that it just had a motor strapped to a tin can, almost like you know what I'm saying? No fancy guard on it, nothing else, and some wheels. And it had a throttle control and a choke control. That was it on it. And a pull string, you had to get over there and you had to set it right, jerk it. But that thing was just older. You know what I'm talking about.
So it doesn't pull your shoulder out. Yeah. Yeah,
the old push mowers. It had like this. If you look right here, the handle was like this.
Yeah.
It was that, double arc. So you grab it like that.
Put your forearms on it, right?
I'd mow this man's yard, and it'd take me all damn day to do this. And he had bushes and all sorts of other stuff, fruit bushes and all sorts of things. Now, he didn't get out much. A great old man. And I go in after I get done. He said, "Hey, you want something to drink? Come sit down, cool down till, somebody comes pick you up." And, my grandfather or something like that, or my grandmother would pick me up. afterwards, so I sit there and talk to the old man. He'd sit there and share stories. Now, this man grew up where he was, I'd say, probably a teenager during the Great Depression.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, listen, my family owned an apple orchard. He said, during the Great Depression, most people would migrate for work and this, that, but they would be setting up camps all over the place. He said, so we'd go to the apple orchard, we hire what we could, pick all the apples, this, that, and we'd sell just enough to pay our bills and put just a hair bit of money in our pocket just for a little bit for savings and buy up new, anything else that we had to get or maintain or this or that. But what we had left over in a horse-drawn carriage, we'd ride that carriage to the camps. And what they didn't sell, they gave away to the people. He said, we could have made a ton of money just off of selling apples. He said, because it was a high commodity. It spoiled. There was great demand for it because it was cheap. But it wasn't the right thing to do. He says, so we take this cart and we give it to hungry people, just tons of apples, this huge cart, and we feed the camps. He says, a look of people that sometimes had traveled for days or weeks and hadn't ate, or families or even children, that they would at least get some apples as nutrition. When you don't do that and you don't integrate in your community, you don't integrate in your family. My grandfather was a World War II veteran. I've got family that has served in everything from way back, since they came to this country.
Mm-hmm.
Your children that are taken by CPS will never hear those stories or truths.
Mm-hmm.
My grandfather was in World War II. He went to what they call concentration camps. He says they were just holding them like what we held the Japanese. He says, but the problem was there was such a huge, because you got to understand the layout of those countries. He says they had a lice problem. He said, so they shaved everybody's heads, everybody, even, women, short hair, all this other stuff, shaved them down. He says, and they deloused them. He said, there was a huge lice outbreak. So they weren't murdering or gassing anybody. He said they were delousing it. And he says that as soon as we were dropping pamphlets by airplane over to the German soldiers saying the war was over and America had won. So what did the German soldiers do? They just abandoned their post and went back home and just left those people there. He said, so by the time we got to them, nobody was feeding them, nobody was guarding them, and they were too weak to get out, and they were already conditioned, because eventually got down to like one or two people that was guarding a whole camp with just a gun, just saying, if you come outside the thing, we're just going to shoot you. That was about the extent of it. By that time, they were just so weak. He says, but this whole thing of these gas chambers and 6 million, he goes, it's a damn lie. I go, are you telling me that that's a lie? I go, yeah, I was there firsthand. I was one man away from marching on Hitler. When we lined up for formation, we were getting ready to march on Hitler. I was one man away. He says, the man right before me was the last man that went. Boom, part of my company. But they don't want you to hear that. They want you to have the propaganda that's in public schools, the same public schools that are not educating you on your constitutional rights. And this is why Child Protective Services is getting away with what they're doing. Why? Tennessee just recently passed a new law that increases, the probability of the ability, not only for somebody that is trespassing or trying to destroy your property or in your house, now it deals with the property. What does that mean? CPS workers come up on your property, you tell them to leave, they keep going. This is why they're showing up with police. Well, let me explain something to our sheriffs. When an officer or a deputy shows up to aid and abet CPS on unconstitutional acts, their immunity is stripped. Why? They said, well, you can't know. Tennessee has a code that says if you violate the Constitution, you're immediately stripped of all immunity, including judges. Most people, we need to end immunity. It is, if you look for it in the code, you just have to use it. I hereby strip you what? For unconstitutional acts under this code. You can do it. But here's the thing. When they go to force their way in or this or that, or like I've seen these people come in and they show up with deputies and everything else, guys, there's a reason the Second Amendment was put in number 2 for a reason. Tyrants come in with no warrant, no probable cause. Well, I have an order from the judge. Really? To come into my home? To trespass on my property? Because you got to have an Article 3 to write that. Your family court judge does not have the jurisdiction or the power to write shit when it comes into your home. They don't. Why? Because that belongs to the federal courts. And those that are empowered by the state to do it. Article 3 or an Article 1, and let me give the exception, an Article 1 that has express permission from the United States Congress, not the state Congress, to give an Article 1 judge limited powers to do that for a certain reason. Now, this is usually done for oversight committees, those type of things, to get subpoenas, warrants, all these other things to get those. But they're named by name. Show it to me. So when you go into the federal court and you tell them and you challenge them, show me the warrant. Well, I had a court order. Do you have even the ability or the jurisdiction to write that court order? Because you go to a federal court, no, they don't. There is so much case law on state judges overstepping their jurisdictions and their boundaries. What does that mean, Gunner? You make your own decision, but they go forcing your way in. That's what your second's for. Even if it's a deputy, well, I'm here and no, you lost that when you crossed that threshold, Jack. You're now an enemy of the people. And now with this popping in Miami and everything else, folks, what's it going to take? Florida, what's it going to take before you stand up? This is enough to destroy your Florida state government and eliminate CPS. This is probable cause. And the FBI is right behind you.
And they are too.
I don't think people understand with what's going on. There's a lot of stuff in the show. Well, we're worried about this. There are still things working with the FBI, Department of Homeland Security, and everything else. Why can I tell you that? Why? Because they've got my information. They've got my stuff. I've given them that stuff. I've been in contact with them. Yeah, well, they've been watching these shows and everything else. Man, I had one. We're not going to mention names. So a supervisory special agent, an SSA. Say, Gunner, I watched some of your shows. This is between me and him, her, whatever you may think. See, I'm not going to tell you who it is. You're going to tip it. Gunner, I learned more from watching your shows than I did in any class that I have ever taken in. And when I went back to verify everything you said, I looked at the law, I looked at the case law, I looked at the history. Gunner, I looked at the constitutional canons that you guys are not using. Case law is one thing. That is not the crutch to lean on. The constitutional canons are.
Right. They have no obligation to use those. Case law, they can pick or choose whether they take it or leave it.
Constitutional canons, you can't. And by per the Constitution, listen, that's where you put, if you got that federal case in there, put a notification to the court that you, when it comes down to a decision back and forth in your quoting case law, this and that you will not rely on case law, but you will default back to the constitutional canons as required by law. Put everybody on notice in that courtroom, including CPS and everything. We ain't going to play your games. We're a constitutional courtroom. Game over. When they realize you figured that one out, and you put them on notice. But wait a minute. But then you take and you notify the court officers. It's also your duty and your responsibility to protect my constitutional rights as another set of eyes. The court then becomes your eyes. It's not just up to me to point it out, Your Honor, clerk. It's also your job to look at these things and make sure that they are constitutional and no games. And if they they do it, you put notifications that you are hereby putting notice to that you are seeking immediate sanctions and criminal referrals for it. That's really going to piss off the courts and the state. Why? You don't know. You can play with case law you want. We can do case law. But when I go back to those constitutional canons and those judicial canons, now you've got a problem. Because then you're going to find out a lot of those case laws upon review. Oh, yeah. See, most people don't know to do that. Why? Because believe it or not, you do that in a case and a judge, and they bring it up, a case law.
You better know what the hell that case is about.
Yep. Well, not just that. If it violates a judicial canon and a previous judge has ruled on it, guess what that judge gets to do? Overturn that case according to constitutional canons. Because why? The state used it. You know how many case laws they could flip when you put the court on notice for that? That now the judge is going through and I better double check the canons. Wait a minute. You quoted that case law, but I went back to the canon. Wait, whoever ruled on this before didn't follow the constitutional canon. So I'm going to have to overturn. Actually, they were wrong. Matter of fact, it's because of that I'm going to overturn that case.
Yeah.
There's the power of the federal court, people. You have got to put the people in the courtroom on notice and hold them accountable. I know what your job is. I know what your requirements are. We're not going to play this legalese and all this bullshit stuff we do in the States. We're going into a constitutional courtroom. And when we get to that point, we're going to follow the Constitution as the law of the land and the supremacy clause of the Constitution as it's stated. Otherwise, I'm going to find you all in contempt and unconstitutional. And there, if you've got a judge doing that, now hold on now, it's a federal judge. And once again, it's not a threat. You're holding them accountable. If you don't, judge, you violated your oath. That's serious. That's very serious. And right now, SCOTUS is not playing when it comes to constitutionality. It's not a joke. And you're seeing these rulings, you're seeing these corrupt judges in the federal courts. Bam, gone. Bam, gone. Bam, gone. I mean, how many have they replaced, Darren? I mean, what in the Supreme Court alone that they've removed just in the past, 2-3 years?
Quite a few. I mean, yep.
I mean, they're not playing, man.
No, they're not playing at all. They're not playing at all, man.
So I think we're seeing a lot of this stuff, and now we're saying, well, the FBI isn't doing nothing. Really, they're not doing nothing. Look what they just did in Miami, Florida. Look what they're doing over in Arizona that they're becoming aware of. Look at what they're doing over here. Well, what's that got to do? Man, you have got to learn to stand, man. You have got to get your education. You have got to take and know how to fight. You've got to know to put the court on notice. We ain't going to play games, because if they know you know what you're talking about, you know this information, they know that they're going to be held accountable. They don't want to be in the crosshairs. Well, let's go with that. SCOTUS is inconsistent. Okay, well, how many of those cases also, go look at it, went back and held the court accountable to review the judicial canons versus reviewing case law? They're not. You've got to learn to fight smarter, not harder. Hold them accountable, know their job, know their requirements, know their oaths. Because if you don't know it, you walk in and say, I have just been done wrong. Your cases are getting kicked out left and right. Well, Gunner, this has happened. They've lied on me. They've done that. Have you got the proof? Did you record things? Have you got paperwork? That? Those are called exhibits. You work those exhibits into your affidavit of truth or with your complaint, your filing. under your certain sections of how they broke the law, how this is fraud, how they obtained this and that, how they kidnapped your kids, legalized kidnapping. Lay it out for them like an 8-year-old could understand. Forget the legalese, forget the legal thing. That's for state courts. You go into a constitutional courtroom, you guys do realize you go into a 1983 courtroom and you file into that, you're in a common law court, right? Because it's the only one that has jurisdiction on constitutional matters, right? And and what is the Constitution, Darren? Is it under common law? Yeah. Or is it under statutes and codes?
It's under common law, baby. Well, yeah.
Notify the court you're aware of that. You got to hold them accountable. You have to state your case in your initial filing. State your case, not about your feelings. Talk about, here's the evidence. This is where you broke. Here's the judicial canons. Here's the policies and procedures they violated. Here's the constitutional canons. Here's the rules of civil procedure they violated. Here's the rules of federal civil procedure they violated. Here's where they did this. Here's the criminal actions that go with it, and point it all out. Don't make the judge work for it. When you go, this is why most people lose their cases. Darren, what are some of the best cases even you've reviewed have got all that stuff laid out for the judge and for the court 100% clear as day? Am I correct in saying that?
For the most part, yeah.
They've connected the dots. They've made less work for the court to go, I wonder where this goes, or here, have you done this?
That still doesn't mean that they listen, but it doesn't mean that they listen, but it's the truth. Right.
But how many of them have taken and filed? And I looked this up. Go look at the federal cases and see how many take and hold somebody or the court to constitutional canons. We did. Oh, yes, we did. We're not going to play case law. We're not going to leave this up for your interpretation. You're going to follow the constitutional canons. And when you apply them, like Article 3, Section 2, Clause 2, that whole bullshit of the federal case, we're not going to get involved in family court. You have to if it's CPS, because they're a state agency. And it specifically says all cases where the state is a party, the federal court has original jurisdiction, not the lowest scum court of the land, which is the state family court system, in my opinion. We're going to follow the Constitution or we're not. Well, guess what? That constitutional question is before the federal court right now in my case. This is why they wanted to shut, well, your case got dismissed last year, Gunner. Yeah. You know why? Because the court clerk, one, did not give me the proper electronic filing that the judge ordered. That's the first one. Oh yeah, we called that out on a recent one too, so that's in there. So second off, I was retaliated against. So yeah, you'll notice that the first case, it had me and Sharon. This one has me. Why? She's dealing with her own stuff, went her own separate ways, destroyed things. But there's more to that. Like I said, as things develop, I said there's going to be a lot of things. And like I said, a lot of people, they won't stay in and they just don't have the gumption to fight this like that. And when they filed that, now this is a whole different filing. If you look at the 2025 case versus the 2026 case, it's two different creatures. Two different creatures. Why? 2026 was done on extringent fraud. Everything was fraudulent. Didn't follow the rules of evidence. Had perjury, forgery. All those things in there, retaliation. It even shows the connection of violation of the UCCJEA, sending stuff over without getting a judge's signature is required. Why? All juvenile court documents are sealed. You got to have a judge's signature. Did CPS follow that rule in Tennessee? Absolutely, they did not. Cross state lines, all sorts of different things. Several other federal cases, and like I said, things that have been filed. You know, like I said, let's see, what if the judge never made a report after this from the hearing? I'm trying to follow you here, Michelle Alvarez, and I did get your letter earlier, your email there for that. We're going to change that. Actually, we're going to look for some affidavits too from you guys moving forward, and they're going to be very specific, and they're going to be about how CPS entered your home with no warrant, and that was the start of your case, and your case was not dismissed for fruit from a poisonous tree, that we're really going to focus on with some of the new affidavit push. So guys, keep your ears open for that. We're going to redo those, and it's just going to keep it that simple. Why? Those are going on as evidence, as exhibits, as well as several other exhibits that are going on there, of saying this is not just Tennessee, this is all 50 states, to where Article 3, Section 2, Clause 2, as well as going in there and saying, hey, I had a case where CPS was on the other side, and it was me. In other words, it wasn't divorce court. Okay, divorce court, and you're dividing of things and this and that. That's what the civil courtroom. That's dissolving the civil union, and that goes with your marriage license, which you included the state when you took and did that. I'm waiting for somebody else to come up too with a common law marriage, actually sue the federal government over that, or not the federal government, the state governments that doesn't recognize common law, because they have to. Because if they don't recognize common law, you just admitted that you're not, you don't recognize the Constitution by making that admission. Why? Because the Constitution is common law. So how can you not have common law? And these are the big things that people go, oh wow, I didn't realize. Yeah, that's how long they've been pulling the wool over people's eyes. They have slowly introduced this to become the creature, the monster it is today, that blows your mind. I got one other video here. Let's check this out. This actually came from Connie's page, that kind of blew my mind too. But check this out. There's a whistleblower in child trafficking. And check this video out, and let's see what we got here.
Washington has been hit by another whistleblower who's accusing the U.S. of being the middleman in a multi-billion-dollar child trafficking industry, with the Biden administration losing track of at least 85,000 minors since they crossed U.S. borders.
The Department of Homeland Security has transnational criminal organizations on the top watch list, some of who got their fingerprints here in Washington, D.C. and neighboring areas are sponsoring the children. It's indisputable. So the money goes to the trafficker who ultimately brings them here. The New York Times actually showed, I think, Hannah Dreyer did an amazing expose where she actually showed the debt page of the child, how much the child had to pay for food, how much the child had to pay for rent.
Really, we're engaged in creating slavery. We are trafficking slaves to this country.
Absolutely. They see us as the middleman because we're paying the flight directly to the end user, the trafficker.
The Biden
Washington has been.
So, wow. I mean, that's just the foreign entities that we're talking about now. Integrate that with the kids that are stealing from a hospital. What the hell?
Yeah.
Now, Michelle asks, she goes, what if a judge never made a report after my evidentiary hearing? Is that normal? I received nothing in writing. I would just probably, if you need to, I would do a motion to compel. Once again, this is not legal advice. This is, an option. This is for educational purposes only. You could do things to compel the court to issue something that you feel that needs to be there. Make sure you do your research before you do those motions to make sure, hey, I would like a motion to compel for a report after the evidentiary hearing. Follow up the processes through those things to see where you're at, and it may be something they're shuffling around, and because a lot of times they'll sift the case, and I don't know if that was that a federal court, Michelle, or was that a state court? That would also be a very important question to ask, because like I said, usually in the federal aspects, they give you a timeline, a deadline, like as soon as you make it back to a certain point. I mean, literally the first papers you get out is like, here's the process you're going to go through. It's going to sift. If you do form as paupers, then they'll serve everybody. Then they'll have like a mediation or something like that to see if you can't work things out without going to court. then usually you proceed forward. Then you have a deadline for discovery. Then you have a deadline for, I don't know, what are some of the other things, Darren? Like jury, you have the stuff for the jury stuff, deadlines for subpoenas, affidavits, all those other things. Help me out here. Is there something I'm missing?
Jesus, no, everything has those, everything.
Okay. But they're pretty strict on those deadlines. When you get them, the federal courts are very strict. So if you need an extension, you make sure, well, I've got this and I've got a hard date. Say if you've got an ADA issue or something like that, say, Your Honor, I request an additional 30 or 60 days due to ADA. Yeah, state courts are different. Michelle, you're going to have to look into whatever your state is and go through their procedures. I'm not familiar with all 50 states. Just look into their rules of procedure, civil procedure, and just go through it. Some of the AIs may be able to help you with some of your research. One, don't take and rely on it 100%. Read the stuff yourself, because it's known to kick out ghost stuff and all sorts of other things. And let alone, I'm getting pretty good when people take and send me stuff and they turn around and they go, oh, well, I got this and this is what it come up with. And this, I go, that's Chat GPT. Oh, that's this. Oh, that's that. And I'm like, how do you know that? I'm like, because there's little markers in the programming when I look through it. And if you don't know where to look, you're not going to catch it. And they literally have programs now that will scan your documents to see whether or not they're AI generated, and they will flag you on that 100%. Which that turns around. Like I said, there are some say, who gives you legal? There are some you can pay for, I think, that go through that are acceptable, but they were catching attorneys, judges, magistrates using these generic AIs. And it was like, well, where the hell did that come from? And no, do your job. You guys make enough damn money, enough per hour and everything else, let alone the benefits of retirement funds. I mean, come on, you that damn lazy, you got to have that do all that for you. This is why you have court clerks. This is why you have, what's the other ones I'm thinking of, Darren, that assist the judge in research and everything else. Oh God, I can't think of the name of it. What's that called? Like this is the judge's research assistants and everything that they put them on and do little things, because a lot of times they won't do their own. I know SCOTUS does a lot of their own. They have a huge research team, but that's why sometimes a lot of their decisions from SCOTUS will say, we'll make the decision at the end of the session. Why? We need that much time to research it. So that's a huge thing that a lot of people don't know. But yeah, going through this stuff, this child trafficking thing is kicking off, man. It's not just about people that are immigrants or illegal aliens, however the terms you want to do, how they're trafficking this and that. It's American children, people that are born here, that they're stealing and trafficking to other places. We have evidence of, once again, of trafficking American children even to Germany.
I gotta say, they're trafficking our kids. As soon as CPS takes our kids, they're trafficking kids.
Yeah.
The definition of trafficking is like, I'm gonna give you the exact definition right now, actually. Hold on.
Black's Law Dictionary.
I don't have the real version anymore because all mine burnt up, so I gotta use the digital.
I've got a few books like that I've worn the pages, the cover, everything else on it. I've got little things in it here, and here to go through, and it just wears it out. But you guys looking out there when you're filing, while Darren's looking that up, remember that in your federal case, man. Keep your emotions out of it. Keep it about fraud. Why? What happened to you was fraud. Okay. Is what you're dealing with, especially with this. Hey, they didn't fall fruit from a poisonous tree. Why? They started the case. Why? By showing up. Hey, we got a report and we need to come in and do a house study or this and that, and come in there. No, White versus Pierce County. Boom, right away. Fourth Amendment. Bam, right there. Questioning people on private property. Doe et al. Versus Heck et al. That's illegal. You can't do that. Why? This is why they tell you to come downtown or go to a public area. That's considered public, not private property. There's rules against this, and there's laws against this. Fourth Amendment is very well protected. The case law, the rulings, the canons and everything else on the Fourth Amendment in your private home is just ungodly. I mean, and it's very consistent with their rulings on those things. So you can pull, half this, and when the state comes up with half of your stuff, and they say, well, Your Honor, according to the state, objection, Your Honor, this is a constitutional matter. This is not a state matter. Fourth Amendment lies solely with the federal court. There's your objection, even when they put it in writing. Well, the state code or this is this or our policy, Your Honor, supremacy clause of the Constitution. There's your response in writing or in anything else. So, but like I said, that's where you just got to fight smarter, not harder. And like I said, it's once you get a hold of it, then you wonder, like, half the stuff that happens to you, whether the IRS is messing with you, or this is happening to you, or this is going on, or you got somebody committing fraud, whether it's a small business, this and that. All of a sudden, boom, you can just file on them. And like I said, you got to make it about the right thing. One of the biggest things, especially with having the heart condition I do, is no ADA. You have to give me ADA. Why? Because I have a medical issue. And once again, I've heard people say, well, you have to prove what you have. No, you do not. Go look at the ADA. Go look at what Congress passed. No, I do not. And when the courts do that, you just violated the ADA by asking me. Matter of fact, now we've got to do it. Now we have to do what? A change of venue. Why? I need a different judge. Why? Because you just crossed the line. You just committed an act against the ADA. And once again, if you don't know it, then you best just keep your mouth, or you should have took time to review it. Hey, let's take a brief recess because I need to review the ADA and exactly what it says and see if this actually says and does what it's supposed to do. So, but there's a lot of stuff coming on. There's a lot of stuff coming out of Illinois. I mean, I've been keeping up with, you've been keeping up with Arizona with them doing the stuff they've been doing, just blasting CPS. I mean, this is what, their third time around trying to reform or anything else. And now they're looking at just a complete gut. And the other question that they're going to have to answer is, do you realize it's actually a crime for the state to create a state actor to replace somebody that is elected by the people? Did you know that? Did you know that when they weaponize CPS and you elect your local sheriff, that they have interfered with the duties of the sheriff that you have elected? Really? Yes. Why? Because the state can't create something that we, the people, elect. That's a form of tyranny. Yeah, because what is child abuse and neglect in every state? Is it not a criminal charge? It's not a misdemeanor. Still, I mean, it's still a criminal, whether it's a misdemeanor or it's actually a felony. And if you look at your state codes, you know this. Well, they accuse me of neglect and abuse. Well, what code did they use? Did they use a criminal code? Look it up. Yeah, and you can ask, is this a part of the criminal code? And a lot of times they'll tell you, they did the same thing to me. Well, when they did that, they violated the state of Tennessee's Constitution, Article 1, Section 14. No person shall be made held accountable for a crime unless they have been presented, indicted, or impeached. None of those happened. There was nothing criminal on me. Never was. It was a hose job. Why? Because I caught the CPS worker violating the Constitution. Then they said, well, we're allowed to do that. Oh, really? Showed it to me right in the Client's Right Handbook, pages 5 and 6, back in the 2016 edition. It shows that they've been doing it for over a decade. So you've been committing constitutional crimes for a decade, which means you've been defrauding the federal government for almost a decade? Gotcha. Using their own paperwork and their own stuff against them. I mean, even going through, I think Darren and I went through that too, is their training handbook for the state of Tennessee, looking at the different sections and so on and so forth through there and saying, look, you're trained to do this stuff. You're using state and federal tax money to train caseworkers or investigators to commit constitutional crimes. How to circumvent the Constitution 101. Did you get a warrant? Because here's the thing. I don't have to. Because you know what else we put in there? Oh, Darren, you're going to love this. I was a complete, just utter ass in my filing. I sent a copy, a subpoena over to the Tennessee Comptroller and to DCS. I said, DCS, out of all your cases coming back all the way from 2016, break it down on a chart year by year. How many cases you had, and how many cases did you enter a home without a warrant? Uh-oh. That's a federal subpoena. Uh-huh. Now, how much money did you collect over the Tennessee Comptroller on all those cases? Because you're going to have to give them all the case stuff. That's between you two. Give them those cases, those specific cases. Let's find out how much money you've actually collected by violating the Constitution. How you like them apples? That's pretty devious, wasn't it, Darren?
Wow. And very, very much so.
I got you. I know where to look. I'm going to make you produce what is available to the public. Once again, it's one of those Freedom of Information Acts, but well, forget that. I'll put it under federal subpoena because if you don't, now you're in contempt. Gotcha. Show me the money. Show me where you, how many things. Go through all your case files, everything here where a warrant was issued on each one of those cases and how many times it says that they've been in the home. Got to have one for each entry. No, we don't. No, that's not what I asked. The subpoena is very specific. Provide the numbers where there was no warrant and how many warrants were issued. Cases where warrants were issued and everything else. How, in other words, how many times have you been in the home? And is there a warrant for each one? And then connect those cases over the Tennessee Comptroller saying, did you receive federal funding for that? That's fraud. That's the False Claims Act, people. Boom. How you like them apples? They hate this case. There's a reason they wanted to shut down this case in 2025. Because they knew where we were going. And yeah, we got distracted. And yes, there's proof of retaliation in black and white, the whole 9 yards, mentioning the date of the first filing. It's all on the record. So yeah, welcome to the reckoning, folks. This ain't no joke. And I've had people come out there, oh, look at that. Look at that garbage. Look at this, that you're putting out there. Really? Have you even looked at it? Once again, it's not done. Well, of course, the people that took and criticized it the most, Aaron, were people in the law, lawyers. And I kind of scratch my head and I turn around and I go, so you've been to law school, you've got your life. Well, yeah, I've got it. And then that's just not, I go, okay, well, you do realize this is a pro se sui juris case, right? You realize the rules are completely different and they don't go by the law school bullshit. You better read, or did you skip that in constitutional class? Uh-oh. Yeah. Pro se. Darren, let's give them the definition of pro se and sui juris. You still with me? Okay. Let's see. Black's Law Dictionary. And let's go to 12th edition. Let's see if it'll give me a terminology. Nope. Let's go back.
Pro se.
Let's see. Online. Let's see. We got, well, I think you've got the app. Let's see. No, this is just giving me advertisement. I know you've got law school stuff, so you can get into that. Dictionary. Hold on. Let's just go here. Okay. Black's Law Dictionary definition: appearing for oneself as in the case of one who does not retain a lawyer and appears for themselves in courts. Applies to individuals acting as their own attorney in a civil or criminal case. Synonyms: propria persona, it's a Latin word. Litigators, pro se litigants is responsible for complying with all the relevant court rules and procedures and limitations. While individuals have the right to represent themselves, corporations generally cannot appear pro se. They must be represented by counsel. Yeah, I ran into that one dealing with business stuff. Let's see. Let's go here. Sui juris. Now, there's a little here. It says right here, according to Black's Law, sui juris is in the Latin meaning of his own right. In other words, you're coming under your constitutional right. I think he went back and forth there, fading in and out on this. And it's a little bit different. It defines the term as possessing full social and civil rights. In other words, you're claiming your constitutional rights under sui juris. Not being under, hold on here, listen here, not being under any legal disability, not under the power of another or guardianship, or having the capacity to manage one's own affairs. In other words, I'm coming to you as one of we the people. Big difference when you take, oh, wait a minute. You're not just coming on behalf of, you're representing yourself like an attorney. You're coming on behalf of the status of we the people. That's a big difference. That's a huge difference. I think Darren took and faded out on us. We've had connectivity issues, so bear with us, guys. So when you claim that status, especially in a federal court, you're turning around and saying, listen, I'm not just coming as, I'm going to represent myself as in the attorney center and this and that. I'm going to claim a sui juris status, as I'm coming to you as one of we the people, the one who wrote the contract according to the founding fathers. I'm representing basically what our founding fathers said as we the people, the ones that govern, the ones that give the power, that give the permission or the authority, not what's assumed. In other words, when I'm going against the state is not over me. When I go into a federal courtroom, I'm over the state, because I'm claiming my constitutionality of my rights. That's a huge difference when you put that in there, because you're viewed different. So when the juries, well, that ain't gonna go. No, it's sui juris. It's as though we the people, and it's in a common language because I'm in a common court. I don't have to have all these particular things, because I'm claiming not only that status to represent myself as a pro se, but because I'm filing sui juris as well. Now I'm coming to you as though I'm one of we the people. I'm one of the contract writers. And it's completely different. That's why you can compel the court, like I was saying earlier within those notices. If I now compel the court to follow the constitutional canons and to do your job and your oath and all those things, and when there's a debate on case law, we're going to throw case law out completely. What do you mean you're going to throw it out completely? No, if there's ever a debate in case law, we're going to nullify the case law and we're going to go to the judicial canons as required. That changes everything. Everything in your case. Why? Because if you're just going off case law, you can find stuff that sways this way or sways this way. But when you go under judicial canons, there's no room for interpretation. It's absolute. You go back to the Constitution being an absolute document. It's not negotiable. But this is why we've been blinded and we've been bombarded with attorneys that have polluted this down to where it has locked you and I, as we the people, out of these cases not to know this. This is stuff you should have been taught growing up. Your constitutional rights, how to file a case, how to do this, how to understand these things as you were going through public school and getting an education. Why? Because there's federal funds tied to it. It should have been mandatory. but it wasn't. Then you're going to ask why. Well, go look up the origins of public schools. But we figured out too much, and there's too much information flowing way too fast these days. Way too much information. They can't control it. They can't suppress it. They hide it. You know, like that story we broke on you at the beginning of the show from Fox News that originally started. And that's all over the news down in Florida, down in Miami. Bam, got them. Guys, the reckoning's here this year, man. Go look at the case. Once again, the federal case is filed. Yes, we're going to go back and forth. People are going to have their opinions on it. Nobody's ever filed a case like this. Well, it doesn't look like this, that. That's because nobody's filed like this or asked the constitutional question or questions that we have that has been filed with a notice. Because now it compels the court to answer that if Article 3, Section 2, Clause 2 says that all cases where the state is a party, that the federal court has original jurisdiction, then why are all these CPS, these state CPS cases, because the CPS is a representative of the state, why are they not in federal court meeting the federal standards? Why? Because then that would protect the constitutional rights that they've ruled on. Granville versus Troxler. You know, several other cases that we've talked about, White versus Pierce County. This said, hey, I see here within your report that you turned around and you entered the home with no warrant or court order. Well, Your Honor, that's where this and that. Case dismissed, fruit from a poisonous tree. Case is gone. They wouldn't make it. They'd lose 98% of the cases if they had, if not more. Oh, you're trying to get them under, abuse and neglect. That's criminal charge, even in your state. What, you lost your mind? This is civil court. Is there any criminal charges to go with this, or has him or her been found guilty of those things? No, you can't use that. Once again, you're sneaking this stuff through, and they're sliding this stuff on people's cases, and then they turn around and then they say, oh, well, a crime's happened. Oh yeah, it even comes down. They even admit Tennessee was so stupid. They even sent out a damn letter with this other stuff saying, hey, well, you can get money if a crime's happened to you because they have a little slush fund to pay victims of a crime. But there was no crime. This was a civil case. So you're admitting that you had a criminal hearing in a civil courtroom. Thanks, appreciate that. That's how you catch them. Save every document that they've given you, sent you. Get your FOIA request. You have a right to get all that stuff. Once again, from the courts, from CPS, from this person, that person, whoever's treating all these other things. Constantly stay on them, hammer them. Hey, this according to your own policies and procedures, and that's when you go into state stuff, man. It's not really my forte, but listen, man, there's a lot of people. You got it. Why? Document that paper trail. That paper trail in the lower courts will help you with your appeals. And then when you move forward into your federal case to where you stop everything and say, listen, we're going to stop this and we're going to go to a different jurisdiction. Why? Because we're dealing with fraud. And once again, we get this ruling on this stuff, which it's going to come. And I guarantee you, they're not liking this filing. They hate this. They're trying anything they can to stop me. But once that question's asked, that constitutional question, well, and this is the thing a lot of lawyers brought up, we'll wrap things up with this. Well, just because you have a case in this doesn't mean it becomes national. You're absolutely correct. Unless they do an appeal on it and the appeal is shot down and then it holds, then it becomes national. But you forgot the loophole. There's a constitutional question in there. And when that constitutional question is answered explicitly on Article 3, Section 2, Clause 2, whether or not they're even supposed to be in these courts, these state courts at all, and they have to back it up according to judicial canons, not state bullshit or anything else, was it? No. Once again, it says all cases where the state is a party, all. That hasn't changed. You're going to have to answer the question, because if so, it would nullify Every single case across the United States where CPS was against the individual or family, took their kids and everything else, would make it null and void as an unconstitutional, no jurisdiction hearing. Null and void. What does that mean, Gunner? It means all those cases are null and void, and the kids come home across the nation. It's over. And then the amount of lawsuits that will go against the state for every single one of them because of the fraud. Watch how many attorneys pop up, especially the few federal attorneys are going to be so overworked. They won't know what to do. And now all these family law attorneys are going, I ain't got no work. I got this education, but I can't do this. And I don't have a federal license to even go in the federal court. Hate that for you. Yeah, you're going to go broke. It's going to upset the balances for the Bar Association across the board with that ruling, 100%. Because if the Constitution is followed, we already know what the outcome is. It's what the Constitution says. And the constitutional canon says there's no room for debate. You got to follow it. So no more kicking back. So now if CPS wants to bring a case, you better file in the federal court. And you better meet all the standards, including entering with a warrant and all these other things, because guess what? Now it's gone, and you're going to have to meet that federal standard. And then you're going to have to meet with the appellate courts in the Ninth Circuit Court District of, where they talked about them lying and this and that. You're going to have to go to the federal courts and meet all that, because no more games. Because the judge is ain't going to be on the state side. He's going to be watching for the constitutional rights of not only them, but the kids. Did you question the kids? Was an attorney present for that CAC interview? Was an attorney present when the CPS worker questioned him at your house? No. Oh, guess what? Now we're going to file criminal charges against you too. Why? Because you broke the law. You violated the Constitution. Now you'll never work with children again. Never. You'll be on a Brady list. Hate that for your college education as a social worker. Why? Because you couldn't follow the Constitution. Guess what? You're still going to owe that bill. Then you're going to be real mad because, boy, they're paying social workers really good right now. Well, I hope it's worth it, because you know what they're doing? They're paying you off because you're committing crimes, getting paid to commit a crime. And you're trained to commit a crime. And yes, we have the paperwork to back it up, to say it. So that's where we're at, people. Well, guys, happy Mother's Day to you guys out there. To those that had their babies kidnapped saying they were stillborn, put into a CPS system, and then money. And like I said, if you didn't watch it, that's on YouTube. Also, it's on my Facebook page. You guys go back and look at that if you look for it. But yeah, that is a huge story that broke. And if that doesn't ignite people in Florida about babies being taken and saying they're stillborn, or they just disappear, this and that, and then they're put in there just to get money and processed. And understand, guys, the FBI is working. They are doing things, and that case alone right there proves it. Well, guys, we are going to wrap everything up this week, and we're going to leave you with
This is the reckoning.
The Reckoning 2026 version. Thanks guys for as we begin to put our new little room together, studio, I guess, if you will. I get tired, so I do the best I can with what I have, but I'm thankful for all those that have been able to assist me and help me. Even in the course of this, and like I said, just trying to stay focused on this case and make sure I'm rested up enough for everything else, because like I said, it's one day at a time. But guys, we'll see you again next week. Thanks for taking and joining us here at Gunning for CPS. I'm your host, Gunner. Check us out again next week, Sunday, every Sunday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And yes, we are working on TikTok. Don't forget to go on TikTok and look at the show page that we have up there, and let's get those numbers pumped up so we can get live on TikTok and teach other people and educate other people on how to piss other people off and learn their rights and shut down CPS before they even begin. But guys, stay strong. It's not an easy thing to go through the stuff that CPS does. It's mental warfare, and the lies, and even the lies they perpetrate on children. that they convince them of it is, literal brainwashing, to break a small mind with nothing but lies and stuff they know is not true, but they have to perpetrate the lie and convince the child because they're coerced, they're intimidated to do so. And there's a lot of stuff out there, but stay strong, stay educated, help each other out, smile, give a little love out there today. And guys, go out there and kick ass. That's what this is about. Whether you like it or not, it's about building each other up and kicking ass and getting these people to wake up for a change and realize what's going on in our country, especially with Miami, guys. Go look up that story out there in Miami. Show that to some people and tell me that we ain't trafficking kids. Especially that other one I think that Connie put up we played tonight. But like I said, if you missed the show, you didn't miss the show, you can go on YouTube and watch it again. Share it. Actually, go on YouTube and share it directly from there on all your social media platforms. Make a big difference. Let's get those numbers up. We're growing constantly. We are international, so people don't always see it on this time zone, but we get it across the country. Once again, thanks again, guys. And don't forget to piss somebody off this week with your knowledge and education about your rights and exposing the corruption in CPS and family court system. Have a great night and have a great week, guys.
Still standing strong. Blount County CPS. The reckoning has only just begun. Truth is the weapon. Justice will be